For decades, the name DC has stood for more than just detective comics. It's a symbol of heroic legends, powerful ideals, and timeless characters. From Superman soaring over Metropolis to Batman lurking in Gotham's shadows, DC created an entire mythology that shaped pop culture. But today, when people think of superhero dominance, it's Marvel that first comes to mind. How did the pioneer of superhero storytelling lose its crown? Let's explore the rise and fall of DC, a story full of glory, missteps, and the hope of redemption. The rise of DC began in the 1930s and 40s, the golden age of comics. It all started with Action Comics #1 in 1938. The world was introduced to Superman, a character that broke the mold and defined the term superhero. With powers beyond imagination and a strong moral compass, he quickly became a cultural icon. Just a year later, Batman emerged in Detective Comics #27, showing a darker, grittier side of heroism. Soon after came Wonder Woman, the first major female superhero whose strength, compassion, and message of peace made her a symbol of empowerment. These three, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, became the holy trinity of DC Comics. As comics gained popularity, DC expanded its universe, adding characters like The Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter. These heroes often teamed up in Justice League of America, long before Marvel would introduce the Avengers. DC wasn't just a publisher, it was a storytelling powerhouse. It created entire worlds with complex villains like Lex Luthor, Joker, and Darkseid. These weren't just comic book characters. They were modern myths. DC's first major rise in film came with the Superman movie in 1978. Directed by Richard Donner and starring Christopher Reeve, it was the first superhero film to take itself seriously. With a powerful theme score by John Williams and groundbreaking visual effects for the time, Superman proved that comic book movies could be box office hits. In the late 80s and early 90s, DC struck again with Batman, 1989, and Batman Returns, 1992, directed by Tim Burton. Michael Keaton's Batman, Jack Nicholson's Joker, and Danny DeVito's Penguin were unforgettable. These films were stylish, dark, and commercially successful, but by the mid-1990s, cracks started to form. Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever and the infamous Batman and Robin in 1997, starring George Clooney, pushed the franchise into campy, cartoonish territory. Fans were disappointed, and the franchise stalled. During this lull, Marvel was also struggling, but preparing for something much bigger. DC returned to form in the mid-2000s with Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy. Batman Begins, 2005, The Dark Knight, 2008, and The Dark Knight Rises, 2012, offered a grounded, realistic take on the Caped Crusader. The Dark Knight in particular, with Heath Ledger's haunting performance as the Joker, became a cinematic masterpiece. It grossed over $1 billion and earned 2 Academy Awards. At this moment, DC seemed unbeatable. But behind the scenes, Marvel was already laying the foundation for its cinematic universe. In 2008, Iron Man launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. Unlike DC, Marvel focused on slow, calculated growth, building character arcs, interconnecting stories, and rewarding long-time viewers. By the time the Avengers hit theaters in 2012, Marvel had built a loyal global fan base. It wasn't just about superheroes anymore, it was about a shared experience. DC, in response, decided to fast-track its own cinematic universe. Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, 2013, attempted to reboot Superman for modern audiences. It had stunning visuals and bold ambition, but it also divided fans. Many found it too dark, too serious, and lacking the hopeful spirit of the original Superman. Then came Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, 2016, a film that tried to do too much, too soon. Audiences were excited to see Batman and Superman share the screen, but the film was criticized for its pacing, tone, and storytelling choices. The famous Martha scene became a meme rather than a powerful emotional moment. Rather than introducing characters in solo films first, DC brought them into ensemble stories. Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg were all introduced in Batman v Superman or Justice League without the audience really knowing who they were. This led to emotional disconnect. Marvel had spent years developing Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America before combining them. DC tried to reverse engineer the formula, and it backfired. The biggest blow came with Justice League 2017. Zack Snyder began filming, but after a personal tragedy, he stepped away. Joss Whedon took over, reshot large portions, and changed the tone. The final product was a Frankenstein mix of two visions. It felt rushed, tonally inconsistent, and full of forced humor. It bombed at the box office and marked the collapse of the original DCEU plan.
Fans were heartbroken. However, not everything failed. Wonder Woman 2017 was a huge success, both critically and commercially. It reminded people of DC's storytelling potential. Gal Gadot's performance was powerful, and director Patty Jenkins brought optimism and heart to the screen. Aquaman 2018 and Shazam 2019 also brought fun and originality, proving that DC could still compete. But the damage was done. Without a clear roadmap, DC films became disconnected. Some existed in the same universe, others didn't. Fans grew confused. Meanwhile, Marvel pushed ahead, reaching a historic high with Avengers Endgame in 2019, a culmination of over a decade of careful planning. Ironically, DC's most successful films in recent years were the ones outside the DCEU. Joker 2019, starring Joaquin Phoenix, was a psychological thriller that explored mental illness and society's dark underbelly. It made over $1 billion and won 2 Academy Awards, including Best Actor. Then came The Batman 2022, a gritty, noir-style reboot with Robert Pattinson. Directed by Matt Reeves, it wasn't connected to the DCEU, but it received critical praise for its tone, cinematography, and world building. These films showed that DC could thrive, but perhaps not through shared universes. In the background, Warner Brothers was struggling to find a long-term strategy. Creative differences, executive interference, and shifting leadership led to chaos. Projects were greenlit and cancelled without warning. Batgirl was famously scrapped, despite being nearly finished. Meanwhile, Ezra Miller's controversies and the delays around The Flash added more uncertainty. DC wasn't just falling behind, it was falling apart. In late 2022, DC made a bold move. James Gunn, the mind behind Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy and DC's The Suicide Squad 2021, was hired as co-chair of DC Studios, alongside producer Peter Safran. Together, they announced a new direction called Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. The aim? To reboot the universe with a clear plan, unified tone, and cross-platform storytelling that includes movies, shows, animation, and even games. The reboot will start with Superman Legacy, written and directed by Gunn himself, scheduled for 2025. Fans are cautiously optimistic. James Gunn has proven his talent for character development, humor, and heart. If anyone can rebuild DC from the ground up, it's him. But regaining fan trust after years of misfires won't be easy. People are tired of reboots and empty promises. DC must now balance honoring its past while building something fresh. Because at the end of the day, DC's heroes were never about powers. They were about hope, justice, and the strength to rise after every fall. Maybe this time DC will rise for good.